You've probably very likely heard some of the discourse around narcissism. But never fear, because, folks, we have the definitive take. It's Not You, Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People by Dr. Ramani Durvasula, PhD. According to the Washington Post, 10% of the population, they have enough of these narcissistic traits to affect their relationships. So this topic of narcissism, it's such a big behemoth topic, and there's so much information, especially in this book, that we're actually going to break this up into a two-parter. So part one, we're going to cover what is narcissism, what is the clinical definition of narcissism, and what are some of the behavioral patterns, and how can you spot a narcissist? In part two, we're going to get more into narcissistic abuse, right? What are some of the red flags? And importantly, how can you protect yourself from narcissists? So let's get into it. Welcome to Bookwise from bookclub.com. I am your host, Britt Brewer, AKA Dr. Books. We are talking about It's Not You by Dr. Ramani, Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People. Okay, let's start with the brass tacks on narcissism. I'm going to be quoting directly from the book. So according to Dr. Ramani, narcissism is an interpersonally maladaptive personality style that encompasses a wide spectrum of traits and behavioral patterns that present in different ways, from mild to severe, vulnerable to malignant. What separates a narcissistic person from someone who is self-centered or vain is the consistency and sheer number of these traits in one person. Just being superficial doesn't mean someone is narcissistic. And also importantly, being emotionally immature doesn't necessarily mean that you're narcissistic. So, folks that are maybe a little bit Peter Pan, or they're into posting a lot of selfies, yeah, it's not the best. I mean, it is what it is. It's fine, but it's not necessarily narcissism. Narcissism, it's about insecurity and fragility, but what is it offset by? Domination, manipulation, and gaslighting. Gaslighting is a biggie. I'm sure you've heard it. And these kinds of levers of power and manipulation, these allow the narcissistic person to stay in control. There are a lot of different behavioral patterns and a lot of different telltale signs of narcissists. We're going to delve into a few that were surprising to me. Shifting mask. So this is sort of the cognitive dissonance of the narcissistic person. On one hand, it's kind of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, being charming, fun, charismatic, and then all of a sudden shifting to being abusive, sullen, enraged, entitlement. So narcissistic people, they believe that they are special and that they must be given special treatment, and they can only be understood by other special people. And here's the kicker, that the rules should not apply to them. So what does that look like in real life? You can't always anticipate which version of the narcissist that you're going to be dealing with. Maybe it's the grandiose one, or maybe it's the dejected one. And what might this look like in real life? Kind of like ridiculous things that narcissists might ask for that are in the lane of this entitlement. How about this? Maybe they're working a full-time job and they ask their boss for that, I don't know, maybe 3 months out of the year, they're going to work at another job full-time. But they insist that they get paid the same amount of money from job number one because they're just that special. Like, these are the kind of people who think that they are entitled to being able to work 2 jobs simultaneously and get paid the same amount from both employers. But that's not really realistic, because you can usually only work 1 job at a time. So it's just that kind of stuff, sort of like ridiculous, very entitled behavior and asks that they just assume that they are entitled to. Okay, another big one, the need for dominance. Narcissistic people, they are motivated by dominance, status, control, power, and the desire to be special. But you know what's not motivating for them? Intimacy or closeness. Why? Well, they always want to have the upper hand in a relationship. So if you are in a relationship with a narcissist and you want, like, say, real, deep, intimate, emotional connection, that's probably not going to happen. Here's another big one. Contempt for others. Narcissistic people tend to do this sort of performative empathy when they feel like they're boosted, like maybe, they had a good day at work, or they feel like they are someone, gave them a big compliment. Like it's called narcissistic supply. And when they are high on their own supply, that's when, you might come home and they might hear about a bad day that you have, and they're actually really nice. They're actually reassuring you. They're really empathetic. But say maybe a week later, if they didn't have that kind of validating day, you're met with, why are you so negative? When are you going to stop complaining about this? Why are you bringing up this problem? What's wrong with you? There's this cognitive dissonance and this, weird kind of Jekyll and Hyde dichotomy that's happening. So we just reviewed some of the behavioral patterns of classic narcissist. Now, and this part was really interesting, we're going to go through different types of narcissist. The communal narcissist is the person who gets their needs met in a collective way. And this is resulting in a grandiose identity based on what they do for others. I'm so giving. I always put others first. They tend to participate in activities that seem generous, like raising money, volunteering, organizing fundraising galas, going on humanitarian trips, helping a neighbor, or even just proclaiming positivity on social media. But, and this is important, the behavior is designed to allow them to maintain a grandiose sense of themselves as a saintly person and to receive, importantly, validation for that. So, in a sense, it's all sort of an act so that people will be like, oh my God, you're so great. You're part of all these different organizations. You do so much. And they go, yes, I do. I do that. Aren't I amazing? Here's another one. Self-righteous. Self-righteous narcissists are hyper-moralistic, judgmental, coldly loyal, extremely rigid, and almost black and white in their worldview and belief systems. Their grandiosity is related to their usually almost very delusional belief that they know better than everyone, and that they truly believe that their opinions, work, and lifestyle are superior to others. And this might sound familiar to you, certainly does to me, they may also be obsessive about their leisure activities. It has to be the right kind of restaurant or vacation or hotel, or say spinning at the right class or doing yoga with the right instructor. So we're wrapping up part 1, where we're going through It's Not You, Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People by Dr. Ramani Durvasula. Coming up next, part 2, we're going to delve more into narcissistic abuse. What are some of the red flags of narcissistic abusers, and how you can really protect yourself from these types of people. So if you've enjoyed part 1, which I hope you have, join us for part 2 of It's Not You by Dr. Ramani. Thank you for joining Bookwise. I am your host, Britt Brewer, AKA Dr. Books.